Welcome to Customer Service Academy Radio with author and customer experience expert Tony Johnson. Tony will share his vision for successful customer service, leadership, and business excellence, and speak to some of the most impactful leaders in business today. And now, here's Tony Johnson.
Hello, everybody. Customer Service Academy is on the air. I'm Tony Johnson, your customer experience strategist and trainer. Today's episode coming to you courtesy of 4XI Global Consulting and Solutions and Ignite Your Service Training and Consulting. Truly better together. Folks, as I have said a million times, I still have the best course out there to really ground you in the fundamentals of guest experience. They're my 6 canons of customer service. Head on over to igniteyourservice.com/learning to see all of my programs, but in particular, sign up for the 6 canons of customer service today. We have a special treat. It is an old friend of the show and full transparency, a longtime buddy of mine. We are welcoming Chase Jordan onto the show today. At age 13, Chase started his career in the mountains of Quebec, Canada. A long way from where he is in Florida today, folks. Washing dishes at Gibby's Steakhouse, which is still around right now. His passion for service and leading teams took him all around the country. He has helped restaurant groups, universities, hospitals, all improve their customer experience, their retail ops, their food services, and that led him to become the Chief Experience Officer. That is a huge job, folks, at the University of Toledo and its medical center. He owned his own food service franchise, and now he leads a brand new startup, Virtual Wealth Now. Chase, so great to have you on the show today, man.
So excited to be here. What an intro. I can't believe it myself. And honestly, the check's in the mail. Thank you for that. Really appreciate it. It was a big deal. You know, that CXO role, oh man, you know it as well as I do, if not bigger. You had an even bigger CXO role. But to be the boots on the ground every day in front of folks that don't want to change, folks that resist a lot, and blended in people that are diehards about what you want to do. So you put them all in a big bowl, a big salad bowl, and you mix that sucker up, and it makes for quite the mess to pick up and align and bring the voice to life. And I tell you what, it's the biggest role of my life, I believe, short of being, I'm sure we'll talk about this at one point. Recently, I became a franchisee. More on that later. That might have been the toughest role I've ever had. It's just unbelievable. But thanks for having me on, man. Super excited.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So we always start off with the first question. The first question I ask everybody, you've actually answered this question before, I know, but I'm going to ask again because things change. What is really great customer experience, great hospitality, great service? What does that mean to you? Either as a guy who's been doing it forever or, you know, just someone out in somebody else's dirt being a customer yourself?
Yeah, it's the $1 million question because everybody has a different perspective on it. It's so darn subjective. So what we have to do, and I guess what I'm trying to say, it's not about what I think it should be. It's really about what others think it should be. So you start there. And once you understand the collective, now we can't boil the ocean. You can't please everybody. Organizations that try, only Amazon could almost please everybody, right? With their price point and their delivery systems and whatnot. But then talk to their employees. Are they happy? It's a whole different thing. So once we establish, I don't know, the dozen of happiness points, people are happy about this restaurant, happy about this hospital, happy about this chiropractor, happy about the car dealership. Well, then you really got to boil it down to me is how do I start pleasing 50% as a benchmark? And the big thing that always comes up, and you know this very well, and if somebody's listening right now, it's like, well, how do I do that? Well, let's talk about that in a moment. But what really dives into what matters most is ease of use, right? Out of the hundreds and hundreds of surveys I've stared at, with some of them 20, 30,000 entries, ease of use. So if you're going to choose a bunch of stuff, you're making a mistake. Choose 1 or 2 things. And I would say start with ease of use, whether it's ordering, whether it's communicating, whether it's reporting a problem, start there. So to me, I tie it into the public, right? And the greater aggregate. What do they want? So then I can start building my plan and aligning my team. Ease of use, right? Nowadays, price point, of course, but that's too challenging. You're not going to be able to solve that one yet. So ease of use. And then after that, they want a good tone. That's what I found out. And people might say, no, if I'm easy to use and I got a great tone online, a voicemail I leave, my chat bot on my website. Am I easy to use, and is my tone cool? That's it. I'm telling you, whether you're buying a $200,000 Bentley or you're just going to get a Casio watch for a kid at Walmart, was it easy, and were the people cool? And that's it to me, man. And that's the public has really, really spoken on that.
Yeah, that ease of use piece continues to come up again and again. So when we think about this idea of service, there's always two kinds, and you know this pretty well, right? That there's that internal service that you give perhaps to your internal customers, aka your employees, your team, and the external customers that you have, the folks that are putting money in your tills. How does internal customer service impact that external hospitality, if you will?
So I love this question. When you and I get, these podcasts, we get together and we talk about, what can we ask that will, somebody listening to this can be helped with. So let's get tactical. I think the last one was pretty tactical. Don't boil the ocean, stick to a couple things and go to it. And don't try to reinvent the complaint department. The complaint department is ease of use and tone. Number two, with this, I was so deep into retention. So when I left the retail, the Applebee's of the world, the big box restaurants, they used to call them. I don't know if they still call them that. I'm getting too old. You go into healthcare and you go into higher ed, something you know a lot about as well. And we talk about retention because when you lose a nurse or you lose an executive or you lose, an executive assistant that's been there 20 years and that's good, all that institutional knowledge leaves. The orientation you paid leaves. We all know this, but we don't look at it enough. People aren't as profitable as they want to be. Look at your turnover and start talking about how do we develop a culture that reduces turnover. So for us, if you lost a nurse, it could be $80, $90, $100,000 lost. Not only do you have all the training and development you gave them, that's gone. The knowledge of the place is gone. Now you have to replace, but there's a gap between the loss and the replacement. How much is that costing you in overtime, patient experience, quality, safety? And this applies from General Motors to Chick-fil-A to a mom and pop deli. I just went to a great mom and pop deli here, been around for 37 years, Tony. You would have loved that great corned beef. And the same thing for them. They were talking about when they lose a cook, that now, gets paid $20, $22 an hour, it's a problem. So with that context, I really want to just touch in, if we don't take care of each other internally, this is based on data, our surveys at Exit said, look, this culture sucks. This culture is no fun. Nobody responds to me, number one, whether it's a leader or an internal colleague's not responding to me. So let's just dive into that one for a moment. So how do we build that culture? Well, first you have to establish where it is. Where are we with this culture? So it is surveys, it is Dropbox memos, right, anonymous or not, where we collect the feedback, like where are we? Well, let's say the organization says, I feel we don't respond to each other on time. Honestly, there's no expectation on when I should respond. So if I get something on a Friday at 2 and I'm out at 5, there's still plenty of time. I don't respond till Tuesday because it's never been ingrained in me. So let's set some realities on where do we stand today? And again, you're going to get a bunch of stuff. Stick with two things. What are the two things we can improve, not only this quarter, but call it the next 12 to 18 months? Response time and how we communicate on email. Everybody's gotten the book email. That could have been just 1.5 sentences. Or honestly, I'll challenge, it might have been in the subject line alone and leave it there, right? So we establish where we are. Number two, let's start communicating around what are the expectations. Is it a 24-hour response time, right? Because we've had colleagues that I've had to approach with some progressive discipline where they're literally, if it wasn't the boss on email, I'm telling you, they would not respond to anything. We had their logs. We worked in a union environment for many, many years, decades. And you'd have to prove some stuff before you can remove someone that wasn't participating in the program. But at the end of the day, we'd go and see their logs. We had a case study where they wouldn't respond to anyone but their own boss. And one of them was me. So can you imagine somebody that's not even responding, how frustrating it is, for their colleagues? So expect reality, where are we at? Expectation then from there. All right, we're going to respond, guys, to each other Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, as an example, within 3 hours. Is that even a thing that we can do? Sure. Number two, let's train people about how to send an email. You know how many emails I had to read? And I'm 3 minutes in, and I still don't know what they need and how I can support them. So we actually taught how to do that. First context. Hey, Tony, the reason for my email is I need X, Y, and Z. Perfect, but you got to develop a culture of that, because what also we found out is when you stop giving the book length email, people freak out. They say, well, what's going on? Am I in trouble? No. Let's just have some organizational development around email communication, communicating on Slack as an example. Messaging became in vogue. It still is very huge now, where we're just typing to each other on each other's desks. So how do we establish one? What's the length? What's an appropriate length of time to respond to anyone? Guests, an executive, or just a colleague that needs something, a report, for example. Well, once we've established those, we have to start training and developing people around that. We can go really down this rabbit hole on what we can do. But then once we start communicating it, then I know I got to respond within 3 hours if we all agreed to it, ish. Perfect. Then when I put my email together, it's going to be a 20-second read at max. If not, I'm literally just going to put what I need. Hey, Tony, need XYZ report. It's in the subject line. There's no body to that email. So these are examples where you can really say, wow. But at the end of the day, what are you doing? You're building a culture. Culture is a way of thinking and a way of acting. It's how we think and act. That's culture, period, end of story. You know, they write books on this stuff, and I just gave it to you in a snapshot. I know, because I've dealt with that type of change, for so long. So once we understand how to think and we agree with the thinking, and then we agree with the acting, the culture becomes more of a culture of something we never talk about. Treat each other like we're customers. Sometimes we see these great customer service guest experience outcomes, 87 percentile of the country, doing a wonderful job. Internally, we're losing players, we're losing talent because we're not even close to ourselves as we are to our customers. And that's kind of a thing out there right now, period. End of story. In the biggest of organizations, in the small ones especially, where it's a brother and sister attitude, so they kind of dog on each other and they fight each other. So once we establish those expectations, we actually train them, and we start to, from the top starts to communicate better, communicate more quickly, because a lot of times it starts with the CEO and the VPs. They take their sweet old time. Well, what kind of message is that? But at the core of it all, just say it. Let's treat each other like we treat our guests, like a great hotel treats their guests. Once we do that and establish those boundaries, that way of thinking and that way of acting, which is culture, then it's going to start improving, but then measure it. How are we doing every quarter? How are we doing? What can we improve? Can we pivot? Should we pivot? And we should. Those are my 2 cents on that one.
There's a couple of writer downers in there, as you would say. So folks, if you're keeping score at home, if you're playing the home version, the big one in there, you've heard me say it a million times. How you treat your team is how they are going to treat customers, and that is going to be the perception of your brand, full stop, end of story. The other one is this idea of communicating intentionally. I teach the 1-3-1 method. So if you're familiar with Steve Jobs, everybody out there, you probably heard of Steve Jobs. He was always a big fan of only putting one ask in an email. And I think that's important, particularly with executives. Right. So think about the 1-3-1 method. You lead off with an executive summary statement. Hey, Bob, right? Sentence about what this email is about. The three bullet points. What do I need to know about that whole strategic vision statement that I just sent you, the big picture statement? And then finally, the last one, 1-3-1. The last one is, what do you want? What's the ask? What do you want him to do? What action do you need him to take? So tell him what you're going to tell him, and then tell him what you need him to do for you. And if you follow the 1-3-1 method, you will get much better response. So there's a lot of great stuff in there, but I want to just call down on those 2 big dogs in there, Chase.
Love it. I love it. Get to the point. But the big thing is the context. Executives, colleagues, they're busy nowadays. It's tighter and tighter out there. Depends on the organization, but it gets tighter. There's less help. So if I have to read through the whole email to know, I don't even know what the context is. Like what meeting was that? Hey, Chase, remember the meeting we had on Tuesday about how X, Y, and Z was an issue? Okay, I'm back right on track. It's like, pressing the navigation system. You recenter me, because I have 153 emails today. And literally, that was you and I's reality. Very, very key point. Add the context first, then go for the ask or the response to that person. Such important stuff.
So when you think about everything we're talking about, right, it's really about this idea of internal culture or community, building collaboration and teamwork. What's the trick, right? You've led some pretty big organizations out there. What's the trick to building that long-term collaboration and teamwork across departments, silo busting, the whole bit, right? What's the trick? Because we have a lot of folks, Chase, a lot of our listeners are executives and managers in retail and food service and financial services. So we got a lot of folks who lead people every day in some pretty big organizations. What advice would you give them?
Well, first I have to say, with all humility, is that I have had great years of communication, and I've had very, very poor years of communication. And I tell you what I deserved that year, and for multiple reasons: too busy, too lackadaisical. I'm one of the few executives that'll admit that some days we were getting paid for not a whole lot. And we needed to be paid, and we need to be more proactive, and that proactive word gets thrown out there. But at the end of the day, communication is the ultimate piece to internal customer service. So once we do what we just kind of said, we go into, well, we can't bring everybody into a room nowadays. It's kind of hard, but can we throw them on a Zoom? Nobody needs another Zoom, I know. But when they're strategically positioned, when there's a real agenda, when it's short and sweet and to the point, and it's actionable. And what I mean by actionable is I almost want a Zoom meeting to be attached to an evaluation, an annual eval or a quarterly. I want to make sure it's that important that what we talked about will be measured. So when we collaborate with teams, one is don't bring all the teams together if you don't need them. Bring the teams that are relevant to the conversation. It's too many, we see it too many times, right? People don't belong in the room. So if you and I are both customer care on two campuses, but we report to the same person, we're going to meet next week, you or I don't need to be there, right? Let's start saving some of those minutes. But at the end of the day, using the correct Zooms or Slack or messaging and really getting and this has to be managed at first. How do we get the departments to begin strategically with you and you? You have to pick the people. Don't put everybody in the room. Put a representative, a stakeholder in the room. And let's start talking about how do we improve that. One of the ways and tactics in the previous company that I just sold was we literally had, it was almost like a Facebook page where we can all communicate. Everybody knows groups. Groups are becoming a big thing now, free groups, paid groups. Like school and go high level and all these things. Well, I put all my key stakeholders in there. So it was almost like an internal Wikipedia of information. And they began speaking about, hey, here's what I do that has worked. And they just dump it in. And we taught them how to keep it nice and short or do a quick little video. And they would record a quick, hey guys, here's how I solved this. Take a look. Or let me share a file. Let me bring that Excel sheet to you. Here's what I do. Take a look at it. So this is an exciting new way to use technology to bring departments together without anybody getting in a plane, car, bus, or train. Planes, trains, and automobiles, dating myself. But at the end of it all, how do we use some of these technologies to make people feel way more connected? And yes, I don't discount Zoom. I think Zoom is a major piece of what we do now. And we almost have to remove the word Zoom, as great as their branding is and how COVID brought them to the forefront. It's really about, forget that it's called Zoom. If we're going to talk, we need a screen and some technology. That's all it is. Sometimes you have to detach the word Zoom because there's such a negative thing about it now. Well, that's how you start to build that culture, how we think and how we act. Well, how we think and act is we share and we collaborate. And we have this great platform that on my own time, I can grab my phone and text a great idea or ask a question about how to handle something. And now with the little button that says, hey, here's how I record something, send a video. The more real in this technology, we're all text now. Nobody wants to speak. They just want to text. This was from the highest executives to frontline folks that just joined an operation. We don't want to speak. So I always encourage, continue speaking through these mediums. Share the expectation through the mediums. Share the how-tos through the medium. And man, if you can get in a room that is still so valuable, the surveys are clear now. The good people, the hardworking people in all these organizations, small or large, people still like to get together, you know what I mean, and press the flesh a little and have a coffee. And I think collaboration, there's nothing better than being in a room. Period in the story.
Some great pieces in there, and the Gen X in me is about to show, folks. But I will tell you, I have a 2 email rule. If I can't solve something in 2 or 3 emails, I'm picking up the phone. I don't
Love
even
that.
care. Don't give me your phone number if you don't want me to use it, because I just think sometimes you can solve stuff so much more quickly. Maybe it's a Teams chat, maybe it's a Zoom chat, maybe it's an SMS, or a chat on your phone or whatever, back and forth, or Slack or whatever that something is. But also sometimes it's okay. I'm going to tell you right now, everybody, I'm giving you permission right now. It is okay to pick up the phone, dial the digits, and say hello to somebody. It is perfectly acceptable. Don't let anybody tell you any different. All right. Now, again, this PSA comes to you from Generation X, but I will tell you, most people actually appreciate it.
They
So,
do.
you've led some of these big teams we talked about. So I'm gonna give you a twofer here. Team engagement and motivation is something that I see a lot of executives out there struggling with, a lot of mid-level managers, and I think you agree that the district manager is one of the most important and unheralded positions in an organization, right?
Unsupported.
Yeah.
Regional folks are
Yeah.
unsupported.
Yeah, just caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. Folks, if you ever wondered how big corporate stuff happens at a headquarters and how the restaurant and a franchise finds out about that and makes it happen, thank a district manager, because they translate corporate gobbledygook into frontline action every day of their lives. So when you think about motivating and engaging employees, and I'm actually going to go a click down on this too, because we both live in Florida. Everybody, just full transparency. Chase and I are both Florida residents. We have been through 2 huge hurricanes as we're recording this. We've just been through Milton and Helene before that. We're a few weeks out from those as we're recording this in November. But just think about that, Chase. How do you make your teams feel engaged? And then as a leader, as a business owner, how do you take care of folks during times of uncertainty and hardship? For us, it's hurricanes. It could be an earthquake. It could be somebody just lost their house in a fire. It could be any number of things. But we always have employees who are going through hardship in a lot of different ways and diverse ways. How do you just take care of people both on a daily basis and when there are these moments of adversity, whether it's a pandemic or whether it's a house fire?
A lot of questions there, a lot of
Yeah,
great
big one. What I
questions.
wanted to do was give you 800 questions to answer
Yes, no, it's
all at the
great.
same
It's great.
time.
So,
So
well,
go.
what I liked, I used to teach a little course on engagement, and it's very misunderstood. And we've all heard this. If anybody's a manager listening to this, you've all heard, I'm a people person and I motivate people. And there's no bigger lie than to say that I motivate people. When we understand the human being and the animals that we are, I can't motivate you, period. Motivation, which leads to engagement, is an internal job. The only thing I can do, right? This is a great answer to a question in an interview about engagement and motivation, and that your interviewer might not even understand what you just said. So since I can't motivate anyone, the only thing I can do, though, is offer an area, offer an organization, a department. I don't care if it's a department of 2 or a department of 5,000, a division of 5,000. All we can do is be good employers for the motivation end, okay? Because if they won the lottery, they wouldn't be with us. They would be gone. And you're talking about the highest level of organizations many times. So the only thing we can do, though, as leaders is offer a great environment, starting with you. Are you positive? Do you look good? Don't be fake, be genuine. I'm a big, loud, energetic person. Some people might say that's not for me, and they have. But more than not, people say, no, I like this energy. When this dude walks into the room, because I don't only bring the leadership energy, but I'll bring the actions and the resources, and I'm all in the best that I can. I'm not perfect, but that's what you do. So when an employee walks in and you're cool and your tone is right and you're easy to work with and you set expectations, because we know the surveys are clear. They want expectations. They want feedback. Now, learn how to give feedback. and learn how they want their feedback. Some people want it in writing. Some people want it one-on-one. Me, I want it dead on so I can go cry in my corner and come back to work stronger. That's me. I've always wanted it. I don't care if there's people around me. You're going to hurt my feelings either way. So hit me and then let me go recover, learn, and come back. And that's the way I do. So build an environment, build a room, I call it, and a room represents an organization, a department, a division. Build a room with great tone and ease of use, and then develop your people. Hold them accountable. Try to grow the business so there are opportunities for being, getting a raise and being promoted. We overcomplicate the whole thing. So that's how I personally believe is the only way, is let me build a great room that when people come in that room, a great organization, and it starts with the department heads and the divisional leaders and the regional and then all the way down. But once somebody has an attitude like that, then you might say, well, how do you do that? Well, we talked about tone. And, if you were promoted a little too early, catch up with your competencies, right? We've all been promoted prematurely. And the good ones, read the books, go to the seminars. Tony, you and I have been to seminars. We've read how many books? We've written books. Many times I thought I wrote books just so I can learn, and review things and be better. And it was great that it helped a few folks along the way. But that's how you build a culture and environment. Now people see this, and hopefully they become little micro personalities around being cool, good tone, development, accountability, and trust me, they push the bad people out that way, which helps culture. And then you can start to talk about engagement. And engagement is really about, how do I empower you? How do I include you in decisions? The biggest leadership lesson of all times is people support what they help build. So sometimes it's hard to do that. You and I have been in high roles. It's hard to get everybody in the room to agree. So a vision has to be established at some point with some key stakeholders. But the more stakeholders are in, large and small, and I mean that respectfully, from the person that just got started last week, I need their input, and the person's been there 27 years, I need their input. Now we start engaging. All right, engaging because I'm part of something. Engaging because when I walk in this room, it's awesome, and the boss is cool, and man, he holds me accountable, but he's been there and done that, and if he hasn't been there and done that, which brings respect, well, he caught up really, wow, he or she really knows their stuff now, and did not take 3 years to know their stuff. We just saw an election, don't want to get political, where there's a lot of maniac and a lot of crazy things happening, but one theme was clear on both sides is there was a lack of competency, and people aren't necessarily willing to catch up on their, so we saw what happened, and whether you're happy or not, there's a lot of competency issues with the issues and the policies. So once we do all that, now we have an environment that is motivating, and now we have opportunities for engagement, because engagement, we survey it. We survey it. How are we doing? How are you engaged? Are you engaged? We know that we can double productivity if you're engaged. We can triple the profit if you're engaged. What does that mean to an employee that doesn't want to be promoted? Because some don't. And what does it mean that people are kind of comfortable financially, and a raise is nice, but it's not the most important thing, which is 60% of the workforce. So when you're not motivated by money and promotions, you need all those great employees, that bring all that together. So how do you engage them? Well, again, you build a great room. You start let's talk about how we're going to think and how we're going to act. It's all connected, right? How are we going to communicate? How are we going to communicate with all the other departments? All of these questions come in together. And you really got to take action on this daily. I know you speak about this in length, whether it's a daily huddle, a daily quick email with just 4 bullets to remind about culture. Here's how we think. Here's what we do. Here are the announcements. And then, man, as a leader, you used to say it all the time, walk your dirt. You better walk your dirt, and you better ask questions, and you better press the flesh. Good friend of mine, Jim Walter, travels all over the world. I'm talking about every week. He's in Amsterdam and he's in China, and it's a very tough job. He gets paid very well. The one thing he does, and the only thing he says his success has been, is because he walks the dirt. He's constantly feet on the ground in all of his operations. He's a big operational guy for pharmaceutical. Basically, they make pills, right? Aspirin and all this. Unbelievable stuff. So when you do it right, that's kind of how it looks like. Build the room, set the expectation, lead from the middle. Don't hide on your armchair, like you would say, and then walk your darn dirt and listen. Are we living this? Can I hear it? Can I feel it? Can I smell it? What are we missing? Is that person not part of the team? How do we move them up, or how do we move them out? So this is an ongoing thing. So I think between you and I and some of the tough years we've had, some of the great years we had, I think we would identify the great years. We built a great room with great tone, and we held people accountable, including ourselves. We're not afraid to say we made mistakes, which a lot of folks don't admit to anything nowadays. Zero. So, you can write a book about this stuff, but I think if you start there, start with you, your room, how we think, right? How we act. Let's all agree on that. And we can't all agree, so let's get 50% at first. Can half this team start doing a few things differently? And then start attaching tactics that connect to clientele, to please them, internal clientele, but it all leads to, wow, now we're treating each other like we treat our customers or clients, whether you call them a patient, a client, a customer. Now we're treating ourselves like that. So who would want to stay in a company like that? Who would want to leave a company like that? A lot less people would. And that's what I call culture and engagement.
So what's the great stuff in there, by the way? So what's the 60-second double click down for folks that are in the middle of challenging times, adversity, the hurricane victim, we've all got employees, we've all had team members who come to you and they're having a crisis, right? Maybe it's a global crisis, maybe it's a personal crisis. What's the 60-second double click on how you take care of them?
So first and foremost is, what resources do I have? If I'm a leader, do I have any resources? Is there any money? Do I have a tent? Like, is there food available? Like, what is it, right? Whether it's Governor DeSantis does an amazing job for us, and I think that's where he goes first. What are my resources, and how do I collect all those? Two, from that little deli I just talked about, he has food, so maybe there's, right? And then there's large organizations with checkbooks. Now, let's look at that. And somebody might say, well, Chase, why would you should go to the people first. No, you have to know what resources you have before you can go to the people and connect the dots with needs, period, end of story. You and I have done crisis management in higher ed, where if something happened on campus, first we assessed what needs we needed. Do we need 4 weeks of food? Do we need X, Y, and Z? That's what I do first. Then I do go to the people, and we start building a priority list: shelter, food, water, toileting, period, right, in crisis management. So we can all take a great lesson from Governor DeSantis. And, when I see him on TV, it just reminds me of the days of crisis. We used to pretend there was a crisis or an active shooter or anything like this. What are my resources? Then what are the needs? And honestly, after that, when you write your plan, it's rinse and repeat for the most part, because crises, when things happen, we all need kind of the same stuff. And then after that, just darn it, listen to them, be respectful, have empathy, build a great room, right? That's such a great mindset. Build a great room that when they come in, great organization, when they come in, they're going to stay, they're going to know what to expect. I think those are really critical things, Just my 2 cents on all that.
No, fantastic. I love hearing that. And this has been absolutely great so far. Thank you so much. But the big question of the day is, are you ready for the lightning round?
Sure. I just said I'm going to answer the way it comes up.
5 quick questions, 5 quick answers to get to know Chase just a little bit better. First question, favorite hobby? I know you're a hard worker, but when you're taking that time to do something fun, what is it?
My number one is cooking, and now, right now, it's how do I make the best sauces? I'm in the sauce world, sauce books, videos. A dish can be okay. It's always the sauce that makes it happen.
All right, good one, love it. What are you binge watching right now? When you're taking the time to really catch up on something, what are you binging?
Well, this is a terrible one, but it's Dexter. We're in the middle of Dexter, and I don't know how they wrote this thing. They wrote it so well that you love a serial killer. That's it. It's kind of a weird one, but it's definitely a favorite.
So you were just talking about cooking. What's your favorite food?
Well, I'm kind of simple. I love a nice spaghetti and meat sauce. With a ton of Parmesan and chili flakes. I can just drop that after that. It's fine.
Yeah, everybody loves a good bolognese. How about the most interesting job you've ever had?
Well, recently, and for the past 2 years, I owned a restaurant franchise. And Oh, man, that's been the most interesting thing. You realize that when you're a field leader or a vice president, like kind of we've been very close to those roles. When you buy a franchise, you don't have the support around you that you remember. So you think you're ready to manage your own business because you've ran departments and big stuff with hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of people around you. When you buy a franchise and you are HR and you're the CEO and you're the CFO and sometimes you're the repairman, you haven't even held a hammer. I tell you what, that's a whole other podcast, but that's been my most interesting, challenging role of my life. Thrilled for the experience, happy that we were able to sell them.
I think when folks go into business for themselves, regardless of what it is, there's always that eye-opening moment. I can remember when I stepped out, almost 6 years ago now to speak and consult and train full time. You go from being, in the corporate machine where you've got human resources and marketing and IT support and all of that to, yeah, you gotta do it all yourself. So yeah, there is that moment. Sometimes I have to have some painful HR conversations with myself. I do it in the mirror privately, but it's all okay. But yeah,
right, that is a good one.
I hear you.
And then don't forget signing, when you sign an $80,000 payroll check for the week, there's something about that'll freak you out for a while.
Yeah, it's not Chronos like if you're in a big company or something.
It's a lot easier to enter the time as a bookkeeper and run away.
How about your favorite vacation spot?
Aruba, the Blue Waters, man. Curacao and Aruba and all those islands. As soon as I sit there with a margarita and loaded tater tots, that's what they serve in Aruba on the beach, and you look at that water, that's it. That's all I need.
It's hard to beat, that's for sure. So Chase, this has been fantastic so far. How can people get in touch if they want to learn more about you and what you do, and tell us a little bit more about virtual wealth and all the big things you've got going on right now? Can you talk to us a little bit about that and how folks can find you and how you can help?
Yeah, in a nutshell, look, you and I left our big boy jobs and we went out on our own and we did our own thing. And I think there's a culture that is really looking for that nowadays. So Virtual Wealth is a company that literally helps people like you and I, we didn't have this help, transition, and we build programs, and we're just launching, we're a brand new startup. We looked out there in the world, and what we've learned is you can look at YouTube and you can look at a lot of things. The opportunities are everywhere. Sell on Amazon, be a consultant. Do this, do that, be a coach. Well, we said all of those are great, but as you know firsthand, being a consultant needs deep expertise, and you better have some grit to make it happen. And you have, which is one of the few people that have really done it well. And well, people aren't necessarily ready to do that. You have the grit, your history, from working a full-time job and going to school. You're the grit person. You're the hard worker with a high level of intelligence. Now,
also, you just compared me basically to sandpaper. I am your sandpaper consultant, folks.
You are. I tell you what, you're my inspiration, and you've really done amazing things in your life. Well, a lot of people are willing to do that, but going out on their own freaks them out. So we were beginning with the assessment of the market. And the assessment of the market is, if you want to work from home and stay there, you need to learn a skill. You can go sell stuff, but learn the skill. So we began with a great program. And we have a brand new book out. You can go take a look at it. I think it's a $5 or $6 book. Great read, very fast read. You can find it at funnewbook.com, funnewbook.com. And if you're saying, well, okay, a book is great, and it's actually a great little read, you should do it, and it's about becoming a bookkeeper from home and helping clients all over the country. This is a real skill in demand. Over 300,000 bookkeeping roles are not filled today, ladies and gentlemen. Go to funnewbook.com, get the book. If you just want to take a quiz, and you're like, can I even work from home? Would I be motivated? Are all the right things in my life to do so? Well, I got a brand new, it's called freenewquiz.com, freenewquiz.com. Take the free quiz. You'll get your score at the end of the quiz. It's kind of fun to do it, by the way. And if you're interested, go get the book, learn a real skill like bookkeeping, and we'll have other programs coming up down the road. And look, virtual wealth is not about cash. It's part of it. Virtual wealth is about working virtually with a real skill, getting that peace of mind, writing your own schedule. That's wealth. Time is wealth. earning a great living. Did you know that good bookkeepers could make up to $150,000, $180,000 from home? Period. End of story. This is a reoccurring income, folks. This is a real skill that pays. And do you know how long people stay with bookkeepers as long as they're in business? 7 to 15 years is the average, guys. So you don't lose clients once you go get it. If you're just curious, go take the quiz at freenewquiz.com or go check out the book at funnewbook.com. But we're going to build this company, Tony, into opportunities, skill sets. So next we're going to go into recruiting. My wife, Chris, she was in recruiting, knows everything about recruiting. We're going to teach people how to be recruiters, how to be bookkeepers. And then we're going to bring in experts because that's where we stop. That's where I've been doing books for 30 years. You've been in books and accounting for 30 years. I put my expertise in that. Christine will put her expertise in that. And then we're going to get experts to come in and teach people if they want to leave strategically, you want to make a real income or more income, right? The average American income is still only, what, $67,000 a year, something like this. I think it's less than that, by the way. Learn a great skill, go home. People want to work from home, learn the skill, make the money, take care of people, and grow along the way. There's a lot of great things. So our programs do that, and boy, I tell you what, the feedback has been great on the test cases. And we're just excited about the startup. You know, in a few years from now, I think we're going to have helped thousands of people leave their jobs strategically. It's not a violent thing. Learn a skill. Don't just do it, right? You had the skill set, but people need skill sets. And don't sleep on bookkeeping. Because I don't know too many people that make $150,000 a year from home regularly and have clients that pretty much love them and would never get rid of them because you don't get rid of bookkeepers once you have them. And getting clients is easier than ever. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, sir.
Well, hey, thank you so much for sharing that. And folks, I'm going to put all of those links down in the show notes. You're going to be down there leaving 5 stars, saying nice stuff about me and Chase anyway. So while you're down there, click on over, take a look, and really look up all of these amazing tools he's sharing with you. But again, Chase, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, sir. Honor to be here. And hopefully I'll come back in a year or two, tell how our startup is going and how we're taking care of our employees.
Very, very good. So folks, remember, we are still in the middle of the great service comeback. This is your opportunity to own the field. You do not want to compete on price, compete on experience. It is the best way to everything proof your business is to compete on experience. If you want to learn more about that, you can head on over to Amazon.com and check out my book, Together We Serve. That's Together We Serve by Tony Johnson. You can get it on paperback, digital, or I will even read it to you on audiobook. But until next time, I have been Tony Johnson, your customer experience strategist and trainer, reminding you to keep your customers and your employees, as Chase said, at the center of everything you do, because that's where the most amazing things are possible. Thanks again for tuning in, and I will talk to you next week.
This has been Customer Service Academy Radio with Tony Johnson. Tony is available to speak at your event, meeting, or workshop. Have a powerful customer-focused day.